Hello, and welcome to Daily Leetcode JavaScript. So today's problem is sub-rectangle queries. It's number 1476. It's a medium problem, and what the question asks us to do is to implement the class sub-rectangle queries, which receives a rows of X columns. Looks like their English wasn't so good here. I just can't read. Implement the class sub-rectangle queries, which receives A rows, X columns. Rectangle is a matrix of integers in the constructor and supports two methods. One of the methods is update rectangle, which takes in row 1, column 1, row 2, column 2, and a new value. Then it updates all values with a new value in the sub-rectangle whose upper left coordinate is row 1, column 1, and bottom right coordinate is row 2, column 2. And then get value is just going to return the value at a coordinate on the rectangle. So this sounds more complicated than it is. This actually is not a super difficult problem. If we think of a rectangle as a matrix, this is a 3 by 3 rectangle. So this would be row 1, row 2, row 3, and then column 1, column 2, column 3. Okay, they're going to give us a row, a starting row and a starting column, and an ending row and an ending column to replace with a new value. So for this function here, they're going to give us those four things: a starting row, a starting column position, an ending row, and an ending column position, and then the new value. So in this case, they said like R1, C1, and well, I started at 1 instead of 0, like a non-computer scientist. Fail. But anyway, yeah, so this would be R1, if I actually did this right. And then this would be R2 and then C3. So then that would mean this sub-rectangle, we want to change all the values with something else. Again, this would be 0, 1, and 2. Okay, so that's all that's asking us to do. So to get started, the first thing that we need to do is we need to instantiate this rectangle. And here's another, before we even do that, here's another representation of the rectangle, or of a rectangle. So this is a 3 by 4 rectangle. So it's got 4 rows, 3 columns. And the way that they're going to pass it in is going to be an array of arrays, right? So the way that we instantiate this is going to be this dot rectangle equals rectangle. Simple enough. So that's done. The next thing we want to do is get a row and column. So this is fairly simple as well. So to get a value, all we have to do is return this dot rectangle and then give it the row, give it the value. Oh, I'm sorry, the column. So these are going to be indices. It's not going to be the entire row, right? So this is just the index of whichever row we're at, and then this is just the column of the index of the column that we're at. So it's not going to be like an array of the entire elements in the column. It's just going to be an index. Okay, so now this one is the trickier one, but it shouldn't be too hard either. So what we need to do here is have a double for loop. I'm going to say R is going to be equal to row, and then we're going to start at row 1, and R is less than or equal to row 2, and then we're going to increment the row. So we're going to be moving through the rows that they give us to start at. So if we go back to this example, actually let's use their example so it's cleaner. If they gave us row 1 for this value, and then row 2 for this value, we're only going to iterate from R1 to R2. Okay, so that's why we're setting our iterator, or our counter from row 1, and then we have to go to the ending row. If they wanted to finish down here, this would be row 0, 1, 2, 3, right? Cool. So now that we've done that, we need to do something similar for the column. Let C equals column 1. C is less than or equal to column 2. And then we're going to increment the column. Okay? And now what we need to do is we need to set all the values in each of these locations, starting from whichever subrectangle we started to whatever, from the top of whichever subrectangle we started to the bottom right. So all we're going to do is say this dot rectangle R C equals new value. So for each one of those locations that we hit, we're just going to set the value equal to the new value here. I think this should do it. So let's test out our code, and it runs, and let's submit. Cool. All right, seems to be working. Great. Hope you guys enjoyed this video.